Okay, so I didn't realize we'd make multiple videos about this entire thing, but my response to that is we have to cover our bases. This is an idea that I do think is very worthwhile to discuss, and it revolves around one of the most, let's just say, respected and notable players in the NHL at the moment because of his long-tenured career, because of his skill, because of his leadership, and because of his role on the Ottawa Senators. Today we're talking about Claude Giroux and his response to the entire Ridly Greig, Morgan Rielly situation from Saturday night. Now, I get it. We did just make a video a few hours ago talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, Sheldon Keefe and Ryan Reeves' response to the Ridly Greig Rielly situation, but this video is talking about the opposing perspective, Claude Giroux, a guy who, at this point, is 36 years old. He was drafted back in 2006. He made his debut with the Flyers back in 2007. He's been a veteran the entire time, and he has been an absolute stud. This season, he's a point-per-game guy. Last season, he was a point-per-game guy, each with the Ottawa Senators. He's good, and everybody respects him. Claude Giroux has just such a good presence of mind for the sport of hockey. And when it comes to this situation with Ridly Greig and Morgan Rielly, the fact is, in the post-game interview, he didn't go out there and give any specific comments about it. When talking about the Rielly hit, he goes out there and repeats multiple times in the clip, yeah, sometimes stuff happens. You don't like to see a guy getting hit in the face, but sometimes stuff happens. And he's kind of just looking down, not really looking all too enthusiastic to be talking about the situation. And when it comes to the actual goal that was scored by Ridly Greig, his teammate, Claude Giroux didn't give any comments on that. He no-commented his way out of this situation. Now, of course, Claude Giroux doesn't have to answer any questions about his teammate going out there and scoring one of the most disrespectful goals we have seen this year, but Claude Giroux, knowing that he is who he is, a leadership-type figure, there's definitely a certain perspective that you can infer exists here within his mind and the way he sees the entire situation, but we didn't have it put to words anywhere. Until earlier this morning, where we had ourselves the 32 Thoughts podcast with Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman. This article on hockeypatrol.com will be linked in the description if you want to go ahead and read more of it, but the reason I like this article is because they transcribed what it was that Merrick and Friedman talked about in regards to Claude Giroux's displeasure over the Ridly Greig disrespectful goal. Here is the excerpt from the article. After Ridly Greig showboats by taking a full-speed slap shot on a breakaway on an empty net, the Sportsnet panel asked Greig's teammate Claude Giroux about his actions, and Friedman and his partner Jeff Merrick revealed what the veteran said. Okay, maybe that's a little bit misleading, but here's the quote from Jeff Merrick. Claude Giroux, as we all know, is a veteran hockey player. He's been around. He's seen a lot of things. He understands the game within the game. He was really reluctant to comment much on this at all. I came away from watching that on Saturday night and saying I don't think that Claude Giroux was cool at all with what Ridly Greig did. He wasn't cool with what Morgan Rielly did afterwards. Maybe he understood it from an old-school point of view, but he didn't want to bury a teammate. To me, that was one of the most compelling things I've seen on hockey TV all season long. And it's compelling for a number of reasons. Firstly, of course, as we've been talking about this entire time, the drama is awesome. Ridly Greig versus Morgan Rielly, Ottawa versus Toronto, it's a stellar story. But seeing this, one of the main figures in the Ottawa Senators locker room, one of the most well-respected veterans and still top point producers in the NHL, going out there and not really defending his guy, but just kind of condemning the actions that were bestowed upon him. Oh yeah, it's unfortunate to see a guy get hit in the face. You never like to see that. Sometimes it happens. But he doesn't go out there and defend Ridly Greig at all. He doesn't really give any comment on that. And based off of his body language in the video, you could tell that he's kind of uncomfortable just even acknowledging that the situation happened in the first place. So Jeff Merrick is using this and saying, yeah, I don't think that Claude Giroux was cool with what Ridly Greig did. Probably not. Here is what Friedman went out there and talked about. He believes that Claude Giroux was not a fan of what Greig did. Bringing up Hall of Famer and feared defenseman Chris Pronger into the conversation too, Friedman believes that if Pronger had been on the ice when Greig did that, it would not have been good. When Claude Giroux played in Philadelphia, who was their leader? It was Chris Pronger. And if that had happened and Chris Pronger was on the ice, what do you think Pronger would have done? Never mind an in-person hearing, it might have been a felony if Chris Pronger had been playing. When you talk about Claude Giroux there, and knowing that Giroux was a Pronger disciple, he played for the Flyers, if that happened against Philadelphia, like I said, there would be ambulances at the arena. Gritty would be let out in handcuffs if anybody did that against the Flyers. Look, I've been a player in a game nowhere near as high stakes as this, who has gotten angry in a tough game. A really competitive game. When you feel that somebody is showboating you, right? It doesn't excuse going past the line, but I understand how it happens. Friedman talked about when understanding why Giroux wasn't pleased with either side. So, based off of these ideas, I mean, Claude Giroux's coming from a much different perspective. We had talked about this in the Ryan Reeves video just a few hours ago, but when Claude Giroux made his debut, 07-08, it was a different time. The Philadelphia Flyers were a different team. Let's take a look at the Flyers and his first half season in the NHL. Who had penalty minutes on this squad? Scott Hartnell had 143 penalty minutes. You've got Aaron Asham, who had 155. Where's Chris Pronger? Is he on this team? Danny Carcillo had 80 penalty minutes. Riley Coate had 174 penalty minutes. This was kind of the deal back in the day. Giroux was a disciple of that. He was playing with these teams. He knows what the tango is about. He knows about the game within the game. So, of course, if he's going out there looking at his teammate Ridly Greig, hotshot young guy coming into the NHL, actually doing some pretty good damage, and he's got this reputation of being a pest from his former days in junior, and he goes out there with that slap shot, like I had said this entire time, I think it's awesome just from an entertainment and dramatic point of view, but it's awesome because it's disrespectful. At the end of the day, it is very not appropriate to do, but it's not illegal. So, for Claude Giroux to have this perspective for a guy who had made his bread and butter being that pest, 92 penalty minutes in 39 games in the WHL, Ridly Greig was just an absolute crap disturber, and he's brought that attention into the National Hockey League, maybe to the dismay of one of the leaders on his team in Claude Giroux. So Merrick and Friedman do bring up some pretty good points, and based off of this assessment, I mean, I don't think anybody was going out there and saying, oh yeah, Claude Giroux was probably happy about the hit, or happy about the goal. Just from the get-go, it was pretty apparent that he was not really pleased at all with what was going on. I mean, probably pleased that the Senators won. That's definitely a factor into it as well. But still, when it comes to Claude Giroux, it's very apparent here that this may have been the outcome from his perspective, a veteran leadership perspective on the entire situation. Probably would just not have wanted that to happen in the first place. So thoughts in the comment section below. I'll leave a link in the description to this article on Hockey Patrol that goes over the comments from Friedman and Merrick. Do you think Claude Giroux was happy, displeased? Do you think he may have said something towards Ridly Greig afterwards? What do you think that could have been? I'd been seeing a lot of people kind of inferring, saying, yeah, Claude Giroux probably told the guy afterwards in the locker room, like, hey, you can't be doing that, don't do that, it's the NHL, it's the show, show some respect to your opponents, even if you're winning, don't showboat it in front of their faces. I mean, there's disrespect in the game, right? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. You want to reduce this, but when it does happen, you get big, entertaining, dramatic moments like what we saw on Saturday. But thoughts in the comment section below either way. Hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.